You're on a plane traveling. Behind you is a federal employee. You probably didn't notice him. He's sitting there, casually looking around. He's a Federal Air Marshal, and there are thousands of them. They work for the TSA, and they can earn over $200,000 a year. If you were a Federal Air Marshal over the past several years, you would have noticed that your job completely changed. Instead of flying on aircrafts, you were heading to the southern border to help the Department of Homeland Security with the immigration crisis. In 2019, TSA and Customs and Border Patrol entered into an agreement. Instead of providing security on flights, they were to be providing assistance at the border. This included escorting migrants, doing searches, and providing security. Over 1,000 air marshals were sent to the border, and OIG wanted to do an investigation. What did the data reveal? Was there an impact to their primary mission, which is to provide security on planes? How did it impact that to send so many people away from their original mission? You can see here that this OIG report has multiple areas redacted, meaning it's covered up by all these black boxes. Why does the government do this? Well, it was determined that it was sensitive security information. What does that even mean? It means if the information were publicly released, it would be detrimental to transportation security. The main focus point on this report is that the TSA didn't do a proper impact assessment or a risk assessment to see how losing all these marshals would impact the air security. I recently spoke to a guy in the TSA, and when it comes to being an air marshal, he said they had great training, and you could use it to get into the 1811 job series. The vast majority of marshals are never going to be involved in an incident where they have to draw their weapon or they have to make an arrest. And if you love traveling, if you love to be on a plane, going to different countries, different cities, all different types of locations, if that speaks to you, this could be a good position. But you have to account for boredom. You're moving between different time zones, so your internal biological clock's all jumbled up, and then you might end up having to take sleeping pills to make sure that you get some rest, or some caffeine pills to make sure that you're alert, because you can't just sit down on the plane and just pass out. If you're one of those people that sit down and immediately it's lights out, this is not going to be a good position for you. I'm one of those people. When I sit on a plane, I don't last too long. 15, 20 minutes, I'm out. That's not going to work for this position. You need to be alert. Interestingly, about 5 years ago, this article came out, Air Marshal Program in Crisis. This article put a spotlight on the high levels of suicide happening between air marshals and retired air marshals. So why do people commit suicide? Usually it's depression, sadness, a feeling of hopelessness. It could be because something's wrong with the family and you can't deal with it because you're overseas somewhere for who knows how long. Take this case as an example. In Florida, an air marshal returned home from work and opened fire at what he thought were a pair of burglars. Why? Because he was hallucinating due to the drugs and alcohol that he was consuming in order to stay awake at his demanding job being an air marshal. Now, when I heard about these air marshals going to the border, I was thinking a lot of these guys, they might have welcomed this, right? A change of pace. They don't have to be jumping on airplanes here, there, and the other. They can be in a stationary environment doing a mission that could seem a little bit more fulfilling. But like any other task, people should be volunteering for it. It shouldn't just be mandated. You joined the government thinking you're going to be an air marshal, and all of a sudden you're walking across the Texas-Mexican border. That's not really what you signed up for. So hopefully in this type of situation, they ask for volunteers. It definitely takes a certain type of individual to want to be an air marshal. And despite all the bad things that we have discussed, if you're still considering it, what does it take? How can you become one? You could apply. The job announcements are with the rest of the federal government jobs on USAJobs.gov. You can type in Air Marshal into the keyword bar and run a search. We can see that there are over 20 openings right now. Most of these, they're internal positions. That means you can't apply to them. You see this symbol right here? That's only for people working in the TSA. So we're going to filter under the hiring path open to the public. That takes us to 2 positions, with one of them being an air marshal position. But just because there's only one job announcement, do not think they're only hiring for one position, because that's not true. If you look at the job announcement, they're hiring for over 10 locations. Multiple air marshals will be pulled from this one job announcement. This position has a salary range of $67,000 to $80,000 a year. This is pretty much starting at the bottom. This is the equivalent of a GS7 to GS9. If we look at travel required, it's 76% or greater, and you could be on 24-hour call duty. It is in the accepted service and requires both a top secret clearance and drug test. The experience you need is analyzing problems, plan and organize work, and communication. Or you can just have a bachelor's degree instead. Like most law enforcement positions, there's an academy requirement, and that's called Federal Air Marshal Training Program. It lasts 22 consecutive weeks or 5 months. This training is usually split between New Mexico and New Jersey. Should you do it? That depends on your goals and your mentality. You could jump in there, do 2 or 3 years, pivot, try to get 1811. Also, this job announcement, it mentioned analyzing. That is a key word for the 0343 job series. You could do a few years here, apply for 0343, higher GS grade, a little bit better conditions where you're not hopping in and out of planes all week long. So most people, I don't think this is for most people. I think this job will probably appeal more towards the military veteran community or maybe the law enforcement community, but this is a pretty stringent type of position. Not only are you encountering boredom, but you're going to have to be away from your family and your friends for a long period of time. Are you willing to do that so you can carry a badge and a gun and say, hey, listen, I'm an air marshal? There is a certain cool factor that people associate with that position, but for the vast majority of everyone else, I don't think it's for you. Now, we talk about this because we talk about pretty much all the government jobs here on this channel. But if you are considering a federal government job, not this, maybe something more admin focused, then I did a live stream recently and I answered over a dozen questions about the federal hiring process, about competitive service versus accepted service, about negotiating your salary, and a lot of other questions. If you're interested in that, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.